of SSIS Coffee Talk on legal and financial responsibilities. Our agenda for today is we'll have folks that are presenting today give their introductions as they start their part of the presentation. We're going to go through the housekeeping and tennyson warning. We'll have some announcements for the Mentor of the Month and SSIS Sandbox. We'll get into the presentation for legal and financial responsibility with case management, MAPC, payments, and permanency. We'll give some information on SSIS resources, and we'll close with some announcements as well. Our housekeeping attendings have been muted upon entry. So to speak, please raise your hand using the reaction emoji at the bottom of your screen, and you'll be unmuted by one of our panelists. You can also ask questions by submitting them in the chat, and one of our SSIS Business Ops staff will announce your question and we'll get it answered for you. Closed captioning can also be enabled using the CC button located at the bottom left of your screen. And this session is being recorded and will be posted on the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy's website in the near future. A follow-up document will be prepared and distributed to attendees 7 to 10 days following this WebEx event. This is the tennyson warning. It basically lets you know that we are going to be recording this webinar. So take a moment, read this over, and we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, hopefully that was enough time for you to read over the tennyson warning. We're going to jump right into some announcements, and we're going to start out with Eric giving us the Mentor of the Month.
Well, good morning, everybody. Our Mentor of the Month is Marshall County's Stacy Urbaniak. Stacy has been instrumental in building a strong SSIS foundation through her dedication, expertise, and collaborative spirit. Stacy consistently goes above and beyond to support her agency's SSIS users and empower others with knowledge and tools they need to succeed. I'm proud to recognize her as our April Mentor of the Month. Congratulations, Stacy. Thanks for all you do. If you have a special SSIS coordinator or mentor you would like to see recognized at an upcoming coffee talk, please send your information to Heidi Morris, along with a brief message on why you think they should be the next Mentor of the Month. Thanks so much, Stacy, and back to you, Ross.
Thanks, Eric, and congratulations, Stacy. And I will pass this on to Renetta to talk a little bit about our new SSIS training sandbox.
Thanks, Ross. I'm Renetta Walk. I am one of the learning and development staff. I am the curriculum coordinator, documentation specialist person, if you will. So that's just briefly. I've been around for a long time doing SSIS training for many years. So with that, let's just talk about this exciting SSIS training sandbox that we finally have a process that you can use to access this application. So with that, I just want to start quickly, just giving a brief update or a brief acknowledgement, if you will, to Kari Cahill of Fillmore County for beginning this journey with us way back when we were talking about how we can make this happen. And she endured all of our initial trials during this process. So thank you, Kari, for that and working with me during that process. And then I also want to give a special thanks to Lori Plessel, as well as Pine County, as well as Joy Beebe of Freeborn County for piloting the process and helping us to bring our vision to life. So we finally got this baby ready for you all. And we are excited that you'll be able to access this fairly soon here. So let's just do a quick recap about the SSIS Training Sandbox. So what is it? Many of you that have been around a while, all of you seasoned mentors and coordinators, you may be familiar with a process that we did in the past where we allowed agencies to access this training sandbox. And this is the same sort of thing. For those of you that are new, Sandbox, you can think of it as a playground, and it's available to you to help users gain confidence and become familiar with the SSIS application. The Sandbox is a controlled environment where you can experiment, you can train, you can test in this environment. There are agencies that will not have access to this sandbox because they do have test servers. And those agencies are Anoka, Dakota, Hennepin, Olmsted, Wright, and Ramsey counties. So all other agencies, you will be able to use the sandbox. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about why use the sandbox. Why use it? So this application, this training sandbox will allow you a place to explore, right, in the SSIS application. You can do that in a risk-free environment without compromising your production data or interfering with any data integrity. This is a safe space where you can conduct demos or training sessions for your agency staff or other stakeholders. You can test various features and functionality. I think it's exciting that you can experiment with your workflows at your agencies and figure out how to best enhance your productivity within your agency, as well as identify any bugs within the application. And best of all, it's a way to increase that confidence in data entry for your staff, right? So they can do that without worrying about compromising anything critical in the application. The final slide that I will cover today is just a quick update on the training that we are going to offer. So the learning and development team will set up several training dates that will give you mentors and coordinators, all mentors and coordinators, an opportunity to learn how to access this training database. And you'll also learn your roles and your responsibilities, the roles and responsibilities of the help desk. We'll teach you how to request access to this training sandbox, as well as remove or update any access. We will also cover how to use this training request form that we have created for you on our Engagement HQ site. We'll cover some technical support, what's available to you, what's not available to you, as well as cover some of the limitations within the sandbox itself, because it is a training environment and it is not as robust in that environment as you are able to do in production, but you do have a lot of features that you can use, and we are excited that you can do that. So watch for updates of the training dates in the SSIS update, that newsletter, as well as on Engagement HQ. So with that, I will turn it over to Allie.
Thanks, Renetta. Good morning, everyone. My name is Allie Tesmer, and I am a subject matter expert with the SSIS Business Operations team. All right, so during today's coffee talk, we will define the differences between legally and financially responsible agencies when a child is in placement. One agency will usually be both legally and financially responsible for a child in placement, though there may be different staff or units within the agency handling legal and financial aspects. We will also address cases involving more than one agency where the legally responsible and financially responsible agencies differ. Although this can involve two counties, It can also involve a tribe with legal responsibility and a county agency with financial responsibility. We will discuss the responsibilities of each agency when it comes to case management of the placement, payments, and the responsibilities if the placement leads to an adoption or transfer of permanent physical and legal custody. The legally responsible agency is responsible for a child's placement, care, and supervision. Legal responsibility may be through a court order, voluntary placement agreement, or voluntary relinquishment. This may be to a local county social services agency, American Indian Child Welfare Initiative tribe, or Minnesota tribe that assumes initial court jurisdiction, or when a case transfers from state court to tribal court and legal responsibility is transferred from a county agency to a tribal agency. The financially responsible agency is responsible for paying the local share of foster care maintenance payments and services provided. The financially responsible agency is usually a county, but it can also be an American Indian Child Welfare Initiative tribe. The agency that is financially responsible at the time of foster care placement continues to be responsible for the local share of any maintenance payments after permanency. Financial responsibility cannot be split between two agencies. It must be for the entire placement episode. I will pass it over to Erica.
Thanks, Allie. I am Erica Peterson. I am a child welfare subject matter expert in SSIS business operations, and I will be addressing the case management piece of legal and financial responsible agencies. So the legally responsible agency may use SSIS for its work if it has access to it. However, the financially responsible agency maintains the case of record. Therefore, if the agencies are different, the legally responsible agency needs to send appropriate information to the financially responsible agency. The financially responsible agency enters the required documentation of the child's placement and permanency planning information into SSIS and maintains the case of record. Again, the financially responsible agency gets this information from the legally responsible agency. The legally responsible agency is responsible for conducting the monthly caseworker visits with the child or youth in foster care. The legally responsible agency caseworker completes the monthly face-to-face visit. However, the responsible agency may contract with a local agency to complete the face-to-face visits for both in-state and out-of-state placements. The financially responsible agency is responsible for ensuring that monthly contact is entered into SSIS for federal reporting. There is a job aid on the worker documentation resource page, which walks through how to set up an external worker in SSIS. The job aid is located in the admin section entitled SSIS External Worker Setup and Time Entry. So in terms of relative search, the legally responsible agency is responsible for completing the relative search and notice. The legally responsible agency must document their efforts and provide the financially responsible agency with the information as requested for federal reviews. The financially responsible agency may request this information for those federal reviews. There is no requirement for either agency to track or document relative search efforts in SSIS, and agencies are able to document relative search efforts in their own systems. However, I would like to note that the relative search folder, which is located under the permanency folder in SSIS, can be useful for tracking those efforts. The out-of-home placement plan. So if the legally responsible agency is a tribe, the county will defer to the tribe on which agency will complete the out-of-home placement plan. The tribe may complete the plan or request the agency of financial responsibility to complete the plan. The tribe will either provide a copy of the out-of-home placement plan or the information needed to complete the plan to the financially responsible agency so it can be entered in SSIS. The financially responsible agency must ensure that there's a copy or that the out-of-home placement plan is completed and entered into their work group in SSIS. For court reviews, the legally responsible agency is responsible for ensuring court actions are conducted in a timely manner. This includes, but is not limited to, petitions and other appropriate filings. The financially responsible agency is responsible for documenting the initial court removal order and annual court actions in SSIS. This includes completing the corresponding child findings screen for Title IV eligibility. On the SSIS worker documentation page, there is a job aid which outlines how to enter court actions in SSIS. Who makes placement decisions? So the legally responsible agency is responsible for all placement decisions regarding the child in out-of-home care. They must provide the financially responsible agency with the information to document the placement in SSIS and issue payment. The financially responsible agency is responsible for documenting the continuous placement in SSIS and issuing those payments. A continuous placement entry represents an overview of an entire placement episode, beginning when an agency receives placing authority and ending when the placing agency no longer has legal authority for placement. Financially responsible social service agencies must enter placements in SSIS. Continuous placements start on the date the agency receives that placing authority. The legally responsible agency will work with the financially responsible agency to ensure the accuracy of the data that's documented in SSIS. The legally responsible agency must provide all the federally required APGAR's information to the financially responsible agency. In turn, the financially responsible agency is responsible for recording all the federal adoption and foster care analysis and reporting system, or AFGAR's, elements in SSIS. This includes the continuous placement, placements, locations, and absences, information about the child, and the removal conditions. The legally responsible agency does not enter a continuous placement. If they're wanting to document the placement, it can be documented in SSIS by entering the placement only and marking yes to the question. Does another agency or state have financial responsibility for this child, which is courtesy supervision by this agency? And by checking yes, the placement will be marked as a location. For QRTP, the legally responsible agency is responsible for ensuring all requirements are met for the QRTP process. This includes holding the juvenile treatment screening team, the JTST, when another county agency is the financially responsible agency. The legally responsible agency is also responsible for making the referral to the qualified individual, assembling the family and permanency team, ensuring court approval for the QRTP placement extended placement reviews, and ongoing court reviews. The legally responsible agency must provide all of the QRTP information to the financially responsible agency. Tribes participating in the American Indian Child Welfare Initiative are both the legally and financially responsible agency, and therefore all requirements of the legally responsible agency apply. The financially responsible agency is responsible for documenting all QRTP components in SSIS. This includes the QRTP assessment, family and permanency team, court approval, court reviews, EPR reviews as well. When a tribe is legally responsible, the financially responsible agency still needs to meet QRTP requirements, including a juvenile treatment screening team. The financially responsible agency collaborates with the tribe to meet these requirements. On this slide, it it shows the different documentation and job aids available for QRTP placement specifically. They are all located under the heading Family First Prevention Services Act. I would encourage everyone to share the worker documentation resource page with their agency workers. There are numerous job aids on this page that can assist with data entry and with this specifically pertaining to QRTP. Okay, the legally responsible agency completes the ICWA, MIFPA screens and SSIS. This includes inquiry, notice, and active efforts. The legally responsible agency provides this information to the financially responsible agency. Tribes are not required to complete the ICWA or MIFPA screens and SSIS. The financially responsible agency also completes these screens and SSIS, including inquiry, notice, and active efforts. When a case transfers to tribal court, the ICWA MIFPA screens are no longer required. The financially responsible agency will document that transfer, and however, they're still required to fiscally support active efforts in accessing services a family would normally receive under state court jurisdiction. And my last slide is on extended foster care. So the legally responsible agency is responsible for explaining the extended foster care program to the youth, determining eligibility, approving the placement, including supervised independent living, and is responsible to continue to provide case management services for the duration of the child's eligibility. They are responsible in deciding if the youth should transition to adult services. If a youth is not expected to live independently by age 21, the transition to adult services should begin and referrals to the appropriate agency should be made. The legally responsible agency ensures the financially responsible agency provides notice of foster care benefits past age 18 at age 17 and a half. The legally responsible agency must develop the transition plan with the youth during the 180-day period prior to the youth exiting care. Further, the legally responsible agency sends the eligibility information to the financially responsible agency to be documented in SSIS. The legally responsible agency can work with the financially responsible agency to ensure that notice is provided to the youth. The financially responsible agency is required to provide the notice of foster care benefits past age 18 and continue to provide foster care benefits until the child exits care. They are also responsible for completing the extended foster care screens and SSIS. Any questions pertaining to the case management portion?
Hey, Erica, this is Erica Jepson. We have a couple that I'll just reiterate I did answer in the chat. One is what county gets to bill for targeted case management. And whichever agency provides the targeted case management is the agency that would bill for that service. So if it's the legally responsible agency providing the targeted case management, they would bill for it. And then Bonnie has a question, what happens when legally responsible agencies refuse to provide the out-of-home placement plan and monthly contact to the financially responsible agency? Of course, we would encourage that the two agencies work together. We do have the foster care policy team does have an updated document that should be released soon, and they will take that question under advisement and be sure to incorporate that in the final document. Next question Ruth had about how does the legally responsible agency complete the out-of-home placement plan when they do not enter the continuous placement? The placement and continuous placement are not required when filling out an out-of-home placement plan. And I see that you had mentioned that another agency had tried to do it, but they weren't able to fill it out. So I would encourage any agency that is having difficulty filling it out without a placement or continuous placement to just let the reach out to your mentor and email the help desk, because workers should be able to complete that without a placement or continuous placement or placement entered. Another question is how many types of these situations exist? And I don't know. I'm not sure how many exist, but you know, we do get several tickets into the help desk about it. So they're don't happen often, but happen often enough. Another question, if the financially responsible agency is entering the information, would there be any alerts that would occur to the legally responsible agency? And I'm not sure what you mean by that. Alerts. And then I believe you get an error in SSIS when making that plan. If you're referring to the out-of-home placement plan, I will look into it, but you should be able to. So Susan, if you can type in more about what you're wondering about the alerts, and I can be happy to answer that.
Erica, this is Marcia. I think I know what she's talking about.
Okay.
So I think you're talking about the alerts and reminders. And so no, you wouldn't get those alerts and reminders if you don't because they're tied to the continuous placement or placement. So you're not going to get alerts and reminders that usually are tied to those if you're the legally responsible agency who doesn't have those in their system. So but workers, of course, can set their own alerts and reminders in these situations. So remember, there are ability to make your own alerts and reminders if you know there's something you need to keep track of.
And that looks like all the questions for now.
All right, we will start talking about MAPCs as they relate to legal and financially responsible agencies. So first of all, legally responsible agencies are responsible for completing the MAPC in consultation with the caregivers and youth in extended foster care. They're also responsible for sending the MAPC rating report to the family foster home or youth in extended foster care and the financially responsible agency. The agency should also provide a copy of the completed tool to the financially responsible agency. The financially responsible agency needs to when completed, the legally responsible agency must provide a copy of the completed tool to the financially responsible agency. If a legally responsible agency is unable to complete a MAPC, the financially responsible agency is responsible for completing and approving the MAPC in consultation with and with input from the legally responsible agency, caregiver or caregivers, and the youth in extended foster care. The next few slides here are just a few examples of what to do in certain situations when you're looking at MAPCs. So I'm not going to read these off, but they're here for reference once this is sent out in case you need to look over these. All right, and then sending notice of a completed MAPC. The legally responsible agency is not required to send a notice stating a MAPC has been completed. However, the financially responsible agency is required to provide a written notice to the caregiver or youth. The financially responsible agency must send the notice of a completed MAPC within 15 days of the MAPC being approved, along with the statement of rating, benefit level, and instructions on appeal rights for the family if they do not agree with the assessed level. They have the ability to appeal the MAPC assessment. And then caregiver requests for MAPC after permanency. The legally responsible agency is responsible once permanency is established. The legally responsible agency is no longer responsible for a child. They must request reassessments. Requests for reassessments made to an agency should be forwarded to Minnesota Department of Children, Youth, and Families, who will then initiate the post-permanency reassessment process. The financially responsible agency is responsible for post-permanency reassessments being completed and approved by this agency. Any questions on the MAPC section here?
Nothing in the chat, Ellie.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to our payments and fiscal part of this presentation. The legally responsible agency is generally not responsible for issuing payments. When a legally responsible agency issues payments to a foster parent or youth in extended foster care, or to a child placing agency, which then issues payments to a foster parent or youth, the financially responsible agency reimburses the legally responsible agency. Any payments made by the legally responsible agency are not included in the Title IV-E or the North Star Care fiscal reconciliation process. All reimbursements are through the financially responsible agency. Financially responsible agencies may issue payments directly to foster parents or youth in extended foster care, or they may work with the child placing agencies, which would then issue the payments to the foster parents or youth. As previously stated, if the legally responsible agency is involved, the financially responsible agency reimburses them. The financially responsible agency's payments are included in the Title IV-E and the North Star Care fiscal reconciliation process. The financially responsible agency is eligible to receive federal Title IV-E share and/or North Star Care state share of revenue from the department. If reimbursing the legally responsible agency, the amount includes the Title IV-E share and the state share. A child must be the client, although the legally responsible agency or child placing agency must be the payee. Agencies issuing payments to foster parents or youth, whether they are the legal or financially responsible agency, must allow them access to the agency's records of payment transactions. All right, Title IV-E. The legally responsible agency is not responsible for completing the Title IV-E eligibility determinations. However, they should assist the financial agency in getting the paperwork completed since they are the agency working with the family. The financially responsible agency is responsible for entering information into Maxis and SSIS. No Title IV-E documentation can be in the legally responsible agency's SSIS. In order to ensure the correct dates are pulling into the Title IV-E eligibility determination, the financially responsible agency's SSIS, it's imperative that the entire continuous placement episode is in their SSIS, including the court actions. All right, payments for North Star Adoption Assistance and North Star Kinship Assistance. There's no legally responsible agency after the finalization of an adoption or transfer of permanent legal and physical custody. The agency that was legally responsible, the legally responsible agency has no direct responsibility for these payments. Minnesota Management and Budget, or MMB, issues the payments for the North Star Adoption Assistance and North Star Kinship Assistance. So neither the legally or financially responsible agency have the responsibility to do this. However, the financially responsible agency at the time of foster care placement continues to be financially responsible for the local share of any of the maintenance payments after permanency through the fiscal reconciliation process. All right, and I will pass it over to Alicia for permanency.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Wolfman, and I'm a Permanency Quality Assurance Consultant in Child Safety and Permanency. I'm going to cover the agency rules regarding permanency, starting with making an adoptive or kinship placement, then the North Star Adoption and Kinship Assistance eligibility determination, and lastly, the benefit agreement associated with each program. The legally responsible agency has exclusive authority to make pre-adoptive and pre-kinship placements. They are responsible for completing the adoption placement agreement and the kinship placement agreement. For children whose permanency goal is transfer of permanent legal and physical custody to a relative, the legally responsible agency must make required determinations. including that reunification and adoption are not appropriate permanency options. The required agency determinations are in the kinship placement agreement and are needed for North Star kinship assistance eligibility. The financially responsible agency does not have any responsibility in decision-making for the placements. However, their agency SSIS must have the child ward and kinship folders. There needs to be ongoing coordination and communication between both the legally and financially responsible agencies, especially if they are different throughout this process. After the permanency placement has been made and requirements are met to move forward with the eligibility determination, the legally responsible agency must provide the financially responsible agency with the information required to complete the eligibility determination for North Star adoption and kinship assistance in SSIS. The kinship and child ward folders must be in the financially responsible agency's SSIS. Once the financially responsible agency receives the information from the legally responsible agency, they can complete the eligibility determination in SSIS and send it for review and approval by DCYF. Wanting to highlight again, the kinship and child ward folders must be in the financially responsible agency's SSIS. After the eligibility determination has been approved and you're ready to move forward with the benefit agreements, the legally responsible agency works with the caregivers and the financially responsible agency to sign a benefit agreement prior to the juvenile or tribal court finalizing an adoption or a transfer of permanent legal and physical custody. The legally responsible agency may assist with explaining the benefit agreement to the family and obtaining signatures since they have the most contact with the family, but their role is limited to assisting. They are not a party to the agreement. The financially responsible agency completes negotiation of a benefit agreement with the caregivers and works with the legally responsible agency to ensure a benefit agreement is fully executed prior to the final court action. The financially responsible agency verifies that a benefit agreement has been signed by the caregivers, also signed by the financially responsible agency and Department of Children, Youth, and Families prior to the juvenile or tribal court finalizing an adoption or a transfer of permanent legal and physical custody. Are there any questions?
I don't see any in there right now, but if anybody has any questions, just continue to put them in the chat as we go through the closing announcements.
So if you do have any questions that come up now or later, we have several units listed with our contact information. Please don't ever hesitate to contact and reach out to us if you do have questions, consults. We have the ICWA MIFPA implementation email, foster care policy, permanency policy, and MAPC all listed for a resource. And with that, I will pass it to Ross.
Thank you. Well, all right. You know, many program areas will distribute updates, newsletters, or opportunities for learning using GovDelivery. The first link on the page on the top right will allow you to manage your subscription for the GovDelivery newsletter affiliated with DCYF. But do you want to know what the most important publication there is? Well, it's the SSIS update, of course. Also listed on this page is a link to our SSIS update archive on the bottom left. As you can see, there's a link to subscribe to this update. The SSIS update is chock full of useful information and will implore SSIS mentors and coordinators to review this bi-weekly publication and disseminate the information to the applicable program areas at your agency. Let's also talk about Engagement HQ. The SSIS section is working hard to create meaningful spaces for folks to get up-to-date information and resources pertaining to our system. We currently have 3 Engagement HQ pages, one that is private and 2 that are public. These sites are meant to engage with our SSIS partners, mentors, coordinators, and affiliated supervisors through a variety of forums and idea boards. These web pages also give you access to key dates, some learning opportunities, what's trending, and access to resources. The Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy hosts our SSIS Mentor Coffee Talk archive for mentors to peruse as time permits. New to the SSIS Mentor Coffee Talk archive are the agenda with the timestamp documents. These documents contain quick links to topics within each presentation. Not all the coffee talks have this resource available yet, but we are working to ensure that they will be coming soon. And last but not least, it's our good old SSIS resource page. This page contains many SSIS related documents that are now connected and repackaged in a better way on SSIS engagement and information page discussed on the previous slide. Save the date for our May's Coffee Talk. Yep, it's coming. It's the statewide release of 25.2. It'll be Tuesday, May 20th at our typical time, 9 a.m. Central Time. Refer to the SSIS update or use the link in the chat to register. And with that, we would like to thank you for spending your morning with us to learn this valuable information. As always, stay golden, Minnesota. Radio Ross out.